Hello, this is YourStockAlert.com, here today to bring you a video chart of Core, K-O-R-E, Core Nutrition Inc., which is a NASDAQ stock. Our first task for the day is to identify support and resistance. Support will be identified by the green line. As we can see, we're finding a lot of support around the 0.55 level. It has dipped below this level recently, however it seems to always come back within the last couple of trading periods. Let's make that line green. Our next task is to find the second area of support, which can be found directly at, let's see, directly at 0.50, which doesn't surprise me because 0.50, 0.60, 0.70, 0.40, all those multiples of 10 represent psychological resistance, which pretty much buyers feel that they want to get in around those levels because they're even numbers. Our next task is to identify the line of support. Resistance. Excuse me. We have very obvious resistance at 0.75, which not only is it this month's resistance, but it's also psychological resistance. Let's go and find the second area of resistance. We have a second area around 0.95, which I consider this thin resistance because if we're able to get all the way up to 0.95, a dollar seems imminent. So let's just make that line thinner so we can identify that as weak. Next, we're going to go over and see what volume is doing. As we can see, volume's been pretty high for the month of September. The only other time we've had volume at these levels were around July. And as we can see, that high volume of July gave us a nice little uptrend, which actually, let's see, if we count the pullbacks, that uptrend actually led us all the way to 0.75. Our next indicator to look at is the average true range. What the average true range is it shows us volatility and lets us assume how much the stock should move for the day. Right now this stock is moving approximately 5 cents a day. That's 5 cents total, 5 cents up or 5 cents down. So we could expect 0.60 in tomorrow's trading period if it is bullish, which we believe it will be, as we'll explain in a minute. Looking at the candlesticks, we can see we have a series of down candlesticks. These are actually long red candles, which represent heavy bearish sentiment. However, we can see that instead of crashing below 0.50, the stock actually bounced once it crossed the 0.50 line and had an impressive green day today. It's so impressive because if we look at the volume of today, we can see this is actually the highest volume this stock has had in the last 6 months. That's impressive, and that tells us that this company is about to bounce. It's actually in the way of bouncing. Our next indicator to look at is the ADX. The ADX basically tells us if there is a trend in place, how strong that trend is, and if that trend is bullish or bearish. When looking for a reversal, what we want to see is an ADX that is weakening, and we want to see that the negative DI is turned down and converging closer to the positive DI. The negative DI being the red line and the positive DI being the green line. As we can see, we have the negative DI converging closer and closer to the positive DI, which is good, which means the bearish trend is weakening. And as we can see, we also, let's see, use a different color then, thicker line. We can also see that the ADX itself has dropped from 90, indicating a very strong trend, all the way down to 23. Anything above 20 is considered a trend. So right now this bearish trend is just barely a trend. It's a weak trend. That's great because that means that the bears are starting to get out of the stock and it's time for the bulls to come back. Last but not least, we're going to take a look at the RSI, which is a very important indicator. As we can see, we have an RSI of 40, which is pretty oversold. Technically, to be considered critically oversold, you need to be at 30 or below. But 40 is not that much higher above it. It's still pretty oversold. As we can see, when the stock was oversold previously in July, it soon recovered. And that recovery led it from about 0.50 all the way to 0.75. In our opinion, this chart has many bullish indicators, and we believe that KORE has a nice chance to bounce. As always, use proper trade management and pick your entry and exit points before entering the trade. This is YourStockAlert.com signing out. Good luck, everyone.